So today, Sigma announced 3 new lenses for the Leica L mount, the Sony E mount, and then one more coming soon for the Fujifilm X mount. And while these are all vastly different lenses, I figured since they're coming out as a group, we will talk about them as a group and then possibly do another one specifically about the 50mm in a future video. And just for disclosures, Sigma is not paying me to make this video or anything like that. They just loaned me these lenses and they are gonna get sent back after this video and this testing stuff. But if you do find this video helpful, subscribing to the channel and putting a like on this video would be super beneficial to me, as that helps people to see more of my videos and hopefully allows me to do more of this kind of stuff. So the first lens of the bunch is the 17mm f4, which to some people may not seem like a very interesting lens. 17mm is a bit of an odd focal length as it's pretty darn wide. And then f4 is not always exciting to see on a lens, but what you are going to really love about it and what I really appreciate about it is its size. So this thing comes in at 225 grams on the L mount version, and I'm assuming very similar to that on the Sony E mount that I have here. And as it's a DGDN contemporary lens, it has a bunch of the really nice features like just an actual AF/MF switch, as well as this kind of like cine lens inspired, old school, knurled, kind of metallic focus ring, as well as iris ring. The lenses just feel really, really good. And it's my first time using these contemporary line in their I series. And I really love the really understated look of everything, and the feel of it all just feels really, really great. Now, for myself as a photographer, this lens is kind of interesting in that it's obviously really small, and I would be able to just toss this in a bag and have an ultra wide angle lens available to me. I don't normally need a lot of light in a situation where I'm using an ultra wide lens anyway, and the depth of field obviously at a 17mm isn't going to be very much anyway. So for some landscape stuff, some scene setting, things like that, it's a great lens for photography. And as well, if you're looking for a vlogging style lens, like a talking head kind of thing, 17mm obviously works really, really well and gives you the availability to get a lot in your frame. And it gives you the ability to punch in on the sensor of something like a Sony camera into their active image stabilization stuff that goes along with their actual IBIS to give you a lot more stable of an image. Now, the other thing about this 17mm that is really, really unique is its minimum focusing distance. I believe it goes down to 12 centimeters. So the amount of times where I stick it on my camera and was like bumping the object I was trying to focus on because it was so close to the camera, pretty ridiculous. And especially if you use something like an APS-C crop mode to punch in a little bit further. It's an interesting perspective to use as kind of a macro because it's so wide, but it is very, very interesting how small and lightweight it is, and then pairing that with the incredibly close focus makes for a pretty interesting lens. The most interesting lens of these 3 in terms of what I'm looking for is definitely the 50 f2. Again, the build quality is great. It's their contemporary DGDN I series lens. You're not going to get obviously a 1.4 aperture, but as someone who has used a lot of the Leica Summicron lenses, there have definitely been times where I've really loved shooting at f2. And as much as I really appreciate a 1.4 lens, it is significantly smaller than their 1.4 art lens. And in fact, one second. And obviously, not that this isn't a fantastic lens. If you're looking for a lens that's a little bit more walkable and carryable, a f2 versus a 1.4, let's see a pretty significant difference between the two, which may be something that many people will be looking for, especially since you're saving a couple $100s off the price even of this very, very affordable lens. Now, I do think that I'll probably do a video comparing the 2 of these lenses because I think a lot of people will be trying to decide between the 2 of them. So if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments down below. Now, this 50 f2 DGDN only weighs 345 grams in the Sony E mount, and obviously is very, very small and compact and lightweight. So if you don't need 1.4, and especially if maybe you're doing something like video, I don't know, I felt like it was a really, really useful lens and something that I really enjoyed carrying around in the few days that I've had it before this whole release. And then kind of the oddball out of this grouping, I guess, is this 23 1.4. Now, that means it's an APS-C lens, so you can use it on any of the APS-C cameras or a camera like the Sony a7 IV in its APS-C crop mode. And I've been told that the Fujifilm version won't be out till summer, but this is a lens that I'm very, very interested to see on my Fujifilm cameras, because while it is a little bit longer for a really small body, it's still very small, very lightweight. The build is great. And to be honest, I was actually shocked that they didn't already have this lens. Now, the Sony E-mount version of this comes in at 330 grams, so very small, very lightweight, and will hopefully balance pretty well on a Fujifilm camera. I do wish I could put that on one right now, but again, they're not gonna have that mount available for a little bit longer. But overall, 3 pretty intriguing lenses. I do love this as a very compact, just toss it in a bag, ultra wide, especially if you're going to want a kind of more budget lens for something like vlogging, and then, you know, can kind of dual use that thing. I think that the 50 here is just like a great kind of upgrade to like a typical nifty 50. For doing weddings, I personally would want a 1.4 lens, but especially for traveling, the size and weight of this thing are going to be very, very helpful. And especially, again, if you don't need 1.4, everything about it is pretty fantastic. And then this little 23 mil, I'm, again, really surprised that this didn't already exist, but kudos on them to making a great little 35mm equivalent. And again, can't wait to check it out on the Fujifilm X mount. So thanks for watching. If you will have any more questions about any of these, especially about the 50 in comparison to, let's say, the 1.4, leave them in the comments down below, because I will be doing a video on that soon. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all on the next one.